Welcome back to the shop. Got a short video here that goes along with my one from a few days ago where we were plugging all the oil holes up on the half VW. I had the plug on the back that needed to be either flush or slightly recessed so the cover could go on, and there wasn't enough meat to drill and tap it to get the plug all the way in. And I thought about just cutting it off later and filing it down smooth, but that gives me the opportunity to damage the back of the case. So I figured out a way we could just slap it into a pipe coupler and then put it in the lathe and trim it down as much as we need to fit in there like it should. So let's go to it. Here's the plug in question. I said that needs to be level with this back or slightly below. So we're going to pull that out. And what I did was picked up a pipe coupler. We'll screw this in, and then we can trim that back in the lathe. Now, since that's actually screwing into this pipe coupler further than it was into the engine, I'm going to trim back the coupler a little bit first to where I've got enough sticking out that I can trim off the plug. And we'll trim down the plug a little bit. All right, let's see how this worked out. Now I chamfered the hole a little bit so it's not raised up from the tapping process. Just perfect. Now, I just followed the plans on this because it said to drill and tap and all that. In the future, on this hole specifically, I think instead of drilling and tapping, I'll just see if I can't get a cup style plug to push in the hole, because that plate will hold it in place. There is no chance for it to pop out. Now, I understand on the front ones where they could blow out, that drilling and tapping is an excellent idea, but the back one, I think it would be just fine with a press-in plug and would be a lot easier. But that is going to work out great. Now, while I am here, we might as well figure out what we're going to do on this hole here. The actual plug that is called out in the plans is a little ball camp plug that fits into this hole here. It's a 1-inch plug, drops in. You got a T-handle, you tighten it, it expands out. Should work good. They're still available. I just picked up 2 of them off eBay for pretty cheap. So we're going to, instead of going to the trouble to weld this shut, since this stuff doesn't weld all that great, I'm going to take some bar stock. I'm going to cut a plug. I'll hollow the plug out and make it as light as possible. We'll probably epoxy that in there, since we're epoxying lots of things on this engine. I'll make it a slight interference fit, epoxy it in place, and call that good. These 2 studs, they're not wanting to come out, so I may just cut those off flush, because if I take them out, I'd have to fill the holes up anyway. Same thing I did here, just cut it off, smooth it out. Seems to work perfect. So back to the lathe to fill this hole up. Okay, I'm facing off into this bar stock so I can get it in the lathe straight as possible. Now we'll do the same to the other end. Although most of this will be cut away. Yeah, I don't even know why I'm bothered. I'm going to make 1 cut on the outside just to clean it up. Now I'll start reducing the OD to where it will fit in that hole. Probably about yay far. I want to give it plenty of room for the epoxy to hold it. And since I will hollow it out, it won't be very heavy. Stop there, leave a lip. I'm down to about 15 thousandths away, so I'll start sneaking it in. Now I'll bring the tool out now to straighten that flange off. Because I had the tool slightly angled. And now the flange is flat. Let me see how we're looking depth-wise. Depth should be good. I went and test fitted. It's almost right on the money. I'm going to rough that surface up a little bit to make the epoxy adhere better. I'm going to drill in from this end and just to take some weight off. Center drill first. Make sure the hole's right in the middle. Now we'll figure out, probably just go to the step. Leave the flange on the top solid. So I'm going to mark my depth. And drill a pilot hole and then start enlarging. Now with the pilot hole drilled, I can just keep going bigger sizes, and I can feel when it bottoms out, so I don't really need to measure it anymore. Okay, that's hollowed out. Now I'm going to take it over to the bandsaw and cut it back a little bit. It'll just be a rough cut. Okay, she's rough cut down. Now we'll just face that down to the thickness I want for a flange. May take the OD down a little bit. It doesn't need to be quite that wide. Okay, that's good for the OD. Well, let's thin this thing down. Hey, she's a slip fit to right about there. And the way it feels, I should be able to, especially when there's some epoxy on there, to tap that on down in. All right, now I'm going to take a little bit of sandpaper and just rough this up inside here. Give that epoxy something to bite to. Clean her off with a little solvent. Do the same to the plug. I am going to go ahead and epoxy this plug in because it won't affect cleaning in any way. It'll just be one more thing it's done. But since it's going to be right here, I think I'll go ahead and chop these off, get those flush out of the way so I don't end up scuffing my new plug. Cut these off, smoothed them out. Also did the same thing to this little nub here, which was for the distributor hold down. So now let's mix up some epoxy and get that plug in there. Going to be using T88 System 3. It's a structural epoxy. Takes a long time to dry, but it is a really good epoxy. I mixed up a ton of that when I was building the Mini-Max because it was all held together with that. So we'll get that mixed up, coated on there, and that plug knocked in the hole. This will also be the epoxy I use putting the motor mount pieces on. And anything else pretty much on this project that requires epoxy. T88 is a 1-to-1 mix ratio, so I'll just put a couple of little even-sized puddles here. And mix it up with my tongue compressor. And we'll take this, coat the inside of the case. Coat around here because the flange will seal down. I'll put a coat around the plug itself. That fit just perfect. It'll cure in about, I think it was like 24 hours. It'll be completely done. Then we can get to work on polishing up and cleaning the case. But yeah, down here is where I was talking about putting the engine mounts on. I'll use the T88 across there and on the inside where the washers are. Also use it on part of the oil screen in the back. Just numerous little places to use the epoxy. Well, I hope I didn't bore you too bad with machine work, but I tried to put it on fast forward so it wouldn't be too terrible. One more thing done. I know it's taken me a long time, but it is getting closer to winter, so I will be working on the plane much more. Working on the plane, working on the tractor. Got to get my lights hooked up on the tractor because it's getting to where it gets dark soon, so I can't use the tractor. So we'll be wiring that up, doing some paint, body work on it, just all winter long working on stuff. So like and subscribe so you can keep up with all these projects, and thanks for watching.